In a world addicted to noise, everyone is speaking. Everyone is reacting. Everyone is sharing every thought, every emotion, every move. We live in the age of constant expression, where silence is often mistaken for weakness, and stillness is confused with absence. But what if the real power doesn't lie in saying more, but in saying nothing? What if the strongest voice is the one that chooses not to speak? The Stoics understood this long before social media existed. To them, silence was not emptiness. It was control. It was clarity. It was strength. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca taught that true wisdom begins with restraint, that speaking less is not a flaw but a virtue, that silence, when used with intention, is not passive. It is a weapon sharpened by discipline. This is not about muting your voice forever. It's about mastering it. Because in a world desperate to be heard, the one who remains silent becomes impossible to ignore. In Stoic philosophy, silence is not the absence of action. It is the presence of virtue. The Stoics believed that every choice we make should reflect four essential virtues: wisdom, self-control, justice, and courage. Silence, when practiced intentionally, embodies them all. Wisdom is the first. It means knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Silence allows space to judge what is truly within our power." A wise person does not speak simply to be heard. They speak only when their words are necessary and aligned with reason. Then comes self-control. In a world that rewards impulsive reaction, silence is resistance. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." To remain silent when insulted, provoked, or pressured is an act of mastery over the self. It is not weakness, it is restraint. The third is justice, to speak only what is right and not what feeds the ego. Seneca warned, "Speech is the mirror of the mind. If our words serve only vanity, attack, or manipulation, they betray our character." Justice requires us to speak with integrity, or not at all. And finally, courage. It takes strength to remain silent in a world that fears quiet. The silence of the Stoic is not escape. It is confrontation. It means facing discomfort, uncertainty, and even judgment, without the need to explain or defend. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." To be silent with purpose is to live by principle, not to escape conflict, but to rise above it. Not to withhold truth, but to speak only when truth demands. This is the silence of the Stoic, and in it there is power. There are three forms of strategic silence in Stoic philosophy. Each serves a different purpose, but all lead to the same result: greater clarity, greater control, and greater power. The first is the silence of observation, a silence that listens, a silence that watches. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." This is not a suggestion, it is a principle of wisdom. The Stoic does not rush to speak. The Stoic studies the moment. In conversations, the ordinary mind waits for its turn to respond, but the disciplined mind listens to understand. Silence allows you to detect what others miss: hesitation, contradiction, emotion beneath the surface. It reveals motivations that words try to hide. In meetings, the one who listens first sees the dynamics more clearly. While others compete for attention, the silent observer collects data. Who leads? Who follows? Who seeks validation? Who hides insecurity? In relationships, silence is not distance. It is attention. It shows presence without control. By saying less, we allow others to express more. And when people reveal themselves, they reveal the path forward. In negotiations, the silence of observation becomes a weapon. The one who speaks first often exposes their position, their limits, their desperation. The Stoic remains still, waits, and listens. Let the other side show their hand. Let them explain too much. Let them fill the space. Every word they speak is information. Every moment of your silence is advantage. This silence does not mean passivity. It means positioning. It means seeing clearly before acting. It means responding with precision, not reacting from impulse. The Stoic does not seek to be the loudest voice in the room. The Stoic seeks to understand the room, and in understanding they find power. To observe in silence is not to fall behind, it is to rise above. The second type of Stoic silence is silence to build authority. This is not the silence of waiting. It is the silence of presence. Seneca wrote, "He who knows most often says least." True authority does not shout. It does not demand attention. It earns respect through restraint. In a world where everyone speaks to be noticed, the one who speaks less becomes a mystery, and in that mystery power grows. The Stoic does not rush to share knowledge. Wisdom is not in the speed of response, but in the depth of understanding. The wise person does not interrupt to prove a point. They listen, they reflect. They speak only when it matters. This silence signals control. Control over impulse. Control over emotion. Control over the need for validation. People notice when someone speaks with calm certainty. They remember the one who speaks rarely but with weight. The voice that does not echo every opinion stands out when it finally speaks. In leadership, this silence becomes strength. The Stoic leader does not justify every choice or respond to every critique. They act with confidence, speak with purpose, and allow their actions to be the loudest part of their message. In conversation, this silence commands attention. Others lean in when you speak less. They listen more closely. They assume depth behind your pause. Authority is not volume. Authority is clarity, and clarity is sharpened in silence. The Stoic does not fight for dominance through words. They gain influence through presence, through discipline, through the silence that speaks louder than noise. This is the second silence, a silence that does not hide weakness but reveals strength. The silence of the one who leads by example, not explanation. The third type of Stoic silence is the silence of ambiguity, silence that protects freedom and preserves mystery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is possible to speak nothing, then speak nothing, not out of fear, but out of strategy." Because once words are spoken, they create expectation. They create limits. They create paths that may no longer serve you tomorrow. The Stoic understands that clarity is valuable, but only when the time is right. To speak too soon is to lock yourself into positions not yet tested, to reveal thoughts not yet refined. This silence avoids the trap of excessive transparency. In modern culture, we are taught to share everything: our plans, our emotions, our fears. But the Stoic asks, why? Not every truth must be spoken. Not every thought must be exposed. What you reveal can be used against you. What you withhold keeps your options open. Ambiguity is not deception. It is protection. It allows you to adapt without apology. It allows others to wonder, to assume, to project. While they guess your position, you are free to move. In politics, in business, in personal life, those who master this silence are never fully predictable. They are not trapped by their own words. They are not forced to explain every action. They lead with quiet intention, not loud promises. This silence maintains control over narrative. It keeps others unsure, and in that uncertainty, influence grows. When you do speak, let it be because the moment demands it, not because your silence became uncomfortable. The Stoic remains still until movement matters. The Stoic remains silent until words are power. This is the third silence, the silence that holds mystery, the silence that protects freedom, the silence that waits, not forever, but until the time is right. Silence is not just a tactic, it is a psychological force. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. In conversation, in negotiation, even in moments of reflection, silence creates tension. And in that tension, truth is often revealed. When you stay silent, others feel the need to fill the space. They speak more, they reveal more, they show what they think, what they fear, what they want. Not because you asked, but because your silence invited it. The Stoics understood this. They used silence not only as self-control, but as a mirror. When you do not speak, people begin to project. They fill the silence with their own thoughts, assumptions, and emotions. They imagine what you might be thinking. They judge what your silence might mean. And in doing so, they reveal themselves far more than they realize. This is why silence holds power, because it shifts the focus. It draws attention without effort. It invites respect without demand. When you do not react, you show strength. When you do not explain, you show confidence. When you do not interrupt, you gain control, not of others, but of yourself. The quiet person in the room often commands the most attention, not because they say more, but because they say less. And when they do speak, people listen. Silence creates presence. It creates mystery. It creates emotional dominance, not through force, but through discipline. This is the psychology of silence. To be still when others are loud, to hold your center when others lose theirs, to observe while others expose. The Stoic knows silence is not empty. It is full of insight, power, and control. In today's world, many speak not to inform, but to be seen. Not to contribute, but to be validated. There is a modern compulsion to explain everything, to share constantly, to react instantly. But this need to be heard often leads to weakness, not strength. The more you justify your actions, the less confident you appear. The more you react to every comment, every challenge, every emotion, you lose control, you lose respect, and what you say begins to matter less. The Stoics warned against this. Seneca wrote, "Speech is not a virtue in itself, it must serve reason. When you speak without purpose, you create noise. When you respond without thought, you reveal instability." The person who talks too much exposes their strategy, their insecurity, their lack of discipline. Every unnecessary word is a door open that cannot be closed. Every rushed reaction is a missed opportunity to remain in control. The Stoic sees what most ignore, the hidden cost of speech. Not just what is said, but what it reveals. Every word shapes perception. Every sentence can bind your future. The wise do not speak simply because they can. They speak only when it serves the greater goal. Excessive speech is not clarity. It is confusion. It weakens your position and scatters your energy. Silence, on the other hand, concentrates it. The Stoic path is not silence at all times. It is measured speech, purposeful speech, speech that reflects thought, not impulse. The one who speaks less often holds more power, because what is rare is remembered, and what is disciplined is respected. Stoic silence is not just a philosophy, it is a practice, and in the modern world it becomes a powerful tool, especially in the workplace. In meetings, many people speak to be noticed. They offer opinions on every topic, even when they have little to say. But the Stoic speaks with intention. They do not compete for attention. They listen, they observe, and they wait. By speaking less, you learn more. You see who leads, who hesitates, who seeks approval. You hear what others miss: tone, tension, unspoken concerns. Silence reveals the structure beneath the surface. When the Stoic finally speaks, their words carry more weight, because they are rare, because they are precise, because they are earned through presence, not performance. You don't gain respect by dominating the conversation. You gain respect by contributing only when it matters. In workplace conflict, silence becomes discipline. It allows you to pause, to understand, to respond with clarity rather than emotion. It keeps you from defending every decision, from reacting to every criticism. When others rush to speak, the Stoic waits. When others over-explain, the Stoic simplifies. When others seek to impress, the Stoic seeks to understand. This is not silence for silence's sake. It is silence with purpose, a form of quiet leadership that does not seek to control others, but to control the self. In modern work, where noise is constant and attention is divided, the one who speaks less and means more stands apart. Stoic silence is not weakness. It is strength, sharpened by patience and guided by principle. In relationships, silence is often misunderstood. It is seen as distance, coldness, or withdrawal. But for the Stoic, silence is not rejection. It is emotional maturity. The Stoic does not speak out of anger. They do not react to every word said in frustration. They understand that emotions rise and fall, and what feels urgent in one moment may feel irrelevant the next. In the heat of an argument, silence is not avoidance, it is protection. It prevents damage that cannot be undone. It gives space for reason to return, for clarity to rise above. Chaos Epictetus taught that we should not be controlled by what is outside of us, and emotions, especially in conflict, are often triggered by things beyond our control. The Stoic chooses not to be ruled by them. Instead of reacting instantly, the Stoic waits. They let the storm pass. They let silence cool what words would inflame. This silence does not mean the Stoic avoids difficult conversations. It means they approach them with discipline, not impulse. They speak with intention, not reaction. They wait until their words can build, not break. In close relationships, this silence creates trust. It shows strength, not fragility. It shows that you can hold space for emotion without losing yourself in it. To be silent in moments of tension is not to disconnect. It is to remain anchored, to respond, not explode, to choose peace over pride. This is Stoic silence in relationships, a silence that listens first, that speaks last, and when it does, speaks with love, not ego. On the internet, silence is rare. We are told to share constantly, to react, to post, to comment, to express every thought and emotion in real time. But the Stoic sees a different path. Not everything needs a response. Not every opinion deserves a reply. Not every moment must be shared. The Stoic does not seek validation through visibility. They do not measure worth by likes or attention. Instead, they preserve what is most valuable, their focus, their energy, their peace. By choosing not to react to every post, the Stoic avoids unnecessary conflict. By choosing not to share every detail, they maintain privacy, depth, and control. Silence, in the digital world, is a form of resistance. It is a refusal to be pulled into endless distraction, a decision to protect what matters most. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." This is freedom. The freedom to observe without reacting, to witness without becoming entangled. When you speak less online, your words carry more weight. When you appear less, your presence has more impact. When you preserve mystery, you protect your power. Stoic silence on social media is not disconnection. It is intention. It is choosing to engage with purpose, not compulsion. In a world shouting for attention, the one who remains silent stands apart. Not forgotten, but respected. Not invisible, but untouchable. In the journey of self-knowledge, silence is not a pause, it is the path. The Stoics believed that before we can understand the world, we must understand ourselves, and that understanding begins in quiet reflection. Journaling is one of the most powerful Stoic practices, not for performance but for clarity. In silence, with pen and paper, we examine our thoughts, our actions, our emotions, without judgment, without noise. Each day, the Stoic looks inward. What did I do well? Where did I fail? What stirred my anger, my fear, my pride? This process is not loud. It is silent discipline. Seneca wrote, "Anger is like throwing a stone into the wind. It comes back to strike you." The Stoic reflects before reacting, because reaction without reflection often causes harm to others and to the self. In silence, we see patterns. In silence, we recognize illusions. In silence, we build the strength to choose response over impulse. The Stoic does not rush to speak their truth. They sit with it. They test it. They refine it in the quiet of thought. This is not weakness, this is mastery. To know yourself in silence is to know your true power, not the power to control others, but the power to govern yourself. And that is where all Stoic strength begins. Silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything that matters. In a world that rushes to speak, to react, to prove, it takes strength to remain still. It takes wisdom to hold your words. It takes discipline to listen first and speak last. The Stoics understood that silence is not emptiness. It is concentrated presence. It is the mark of someone who is not controlled by impulse, by ego, or by fear. To master silence is to master yourself, and the one who masters the self masters life, because power does not come from being loud. Influence does not come from constant explanation. True strength comes from stillness, from restraint, from the quiet confidence of knowing who you are. So when others rush to speak, pause. When others fight to be heard, listen. When the world pulls you into noise, return to silence. Instead of reacting, reflect. Instead of explaining, strengthen. Instead of speaking, practice stoic silence.